Hello everyone, my name is Polly.
And my name's Amy.
And welcome to the second episode of Managing the Mayhem, the podcast. Firstly, we both really want to thank everyone who's listened to the first episode. We've had such a good response.
Yes,
We've had so many new followers, people listening. It's great. We're really happy. We're really excited, aren't we?
Yeah, we've had a really positive response.
We're
really proud.
So thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you're back for the next episode.
Just know that we're giggling and kicking our feet.
We are. So in this episode, we're going to talk about diagnosis. So we're going to go through how we both got diagnosed and how to get diagnosed if anyone's sat there thinking, oh, I have these symptoms. I want to know if I've got celiac or Crohn's. And I think we really want to sort of bring awareness to this part of the journey with a chronic illness because it's one that, like, is ongoing for both of us. We're still both going through it, finding out exactly what's going on. And it's one that's been very traumatic for you, Amy.
Yeah, it's been an experience, to say the least.
Yeah. So we hope that this sheds some light on that and allows you to sort of know what we've gone through / are going through, to know, how we know what we've got.
Yeah, and it's as well for you to be able to advocate better for yourself.
Yeah.
Because don't just let them tell you that you might have a viral infection. You argue for yourself.
You know your body, and that's one thing that we've both learned is that
the hard way.
We sort of just went with what the doctor said and then got nowhere, and it's like, well, I still don't feel well. Why? Like, why am I?
Diva, you may be wrong here.
Yeah. Why? Am
There's
I
something
not
going
nowhere?
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we start with yours, Polly, because you we're both recently diagnosed in the last year or so, but you've had a long span of time.
Yeah. So I started feeling unwell. I mean, I don't even know when, but it was definitely a good year or a bit before I went to the doctors. Because I just felt I thought it was normal to feel tired and not right. Like I've said in the episode before, my mum said to me like, "Oh, you should be able to do this," and I was like, "Nope, no way, I could not do all that." So I went to I'll tell you the full story.
Yeah.
I just got broken up with, so I was feeling a bit terrible anyway. And I was just sat with my mum, and we were both just absolutely just drained for no reason. I just felt so unwell, and I'm like, why am I always feeling like this? This is not normal. And Mum was like, you know what? Let's just ring the doctors and see if we can get an appointment, because she's like, this isn't right. You've never been well. Always at family events or anything, I'd just be spaced out a bit. And I mean, I love being social, I love being with my family and all that sort of stuff. And I just felt always like a corpse or something. I just wasn't, had no energy.
Like a shell of yourself.
Just a bit of a shell of myself. I just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So my mum went, right, let's see if we can get to the doctor. So luckily I got an appointment that day. That never happened.
Really?
I know.
That is so rare.
I know. I thought maybe I've come on a good day.
Spirits are aligning.
The fate was for me to get diagnosed. So I went and I just told her, I did have a lovely doctor. I was just like, I feel like this and I don't know why. And it's been ages. And I thought I had underactive thyroid because both my parents and a lot of my family do.
Oh.
And it is linked to celiac, I've found out.
Really?
Yeah, a lot.
Everything's linked.
We've been looking up stuff for the podcast and finding out that just everything is linked.
Because we found out the other day that celiac is linked to Crohn's as well.
Everything.
Everything is
type
linked.
1 diabetes is linked to celiac and Crohn's, and so is thyroid problems and loads of other autoimmune diseases. So I just went and I just told her how I felt, and I got upset because I was just sick of feeling like this.
Yeah.
And she said, right, we're going to do a full blood test for everything. And she went through vitamins, diabetes, and she'd celiac at the end. I thought, oh, I won't have that. I genuinely went, well, I won't have that. And she said, but the celiac one does take 2 weeks to come back. I thought, yeah, I'm not ringing up for that. I won't have it. So I went for, they gave me a little thing. I went for a blood test the week later or a couple of weeks later. And I got the results, and they told me I was vitamin D deficient, but no, they tested for thyroid as well, but I wasn't thyroid. I thought, I must be fine then, I must just need more vitamin D. And they went, but bring back in a few weeks for the celiac one. I thought, I'm not doing that. No way.
No, there's no way.
I thought I won't have that, because all I eat is gluten. All I ate at that time was gluten, because I felt so unwell I couldn't be bothered to eat anything else.
That's so valid.
I'd basically been poisoning myself for a few years.
Without even realising
it, because it all sort of, that stemmed from, we're getting deep now, that stemmed from when I had my braces on. I was in so much pain with them. I sort of started having a bit of food anxiety, where eating became, I just didn't eat. All I could eat was pasta, because it was the only thing that didn't hurt. But I started having proper anxiety with food, like I just would not eat anything. I'd just have a bit of bread or a bit of pasta, which obviously that's gluten, so all I was eating was
soft.
gluten, was soft gluten. And that was for most of I had my breast on for like a year and a half, so that was all that time. I just didn't eat properly because I had no appetite. I felt so anxious when it came to eating. All because of braces, honestly. No, but I don't. Well, maybe it wasn't just because of that, but it just was like that was the thing that sparked it for me. So I'd ended up just eating that for so long and probably poisoning myself because of that. But getting back to the blood test, they messaged me about in end of October. So I had my blood test at the start of October. They messaged me at the end of October, and they said, please ring us back. You've got a diagnosis for you've got something to do with your celiac. I was like, my celiac? What do you mean by that? So I went to the actual doctor and said, no, you need to ring up. We're going to get a phone appointment. I can't tell you here what you've got because I don't have access. I was like, okay. So then I had a phone appointment. I was at college waiting for this phone appointment. They were 2.5 hours late to ring me, so I was like, kept being like, sorry if I have to dash out of lesson, like literally at college. And they rang me and I was stood in the hall and they just were like, so you tested positive for celiac. That means you can't have gluten, so you need to avoid wheat and barley. Just try and have a balanced diet. Any questions? And I was like,
that's it.
Practically. And she was really nice. She was nice on the phone. She was like, how do you feel about that? I was like, well, I'm glad I know now, so I can sort of implement it into my lifestyle. That's what I said at the time. I was like, how did I think of that?
That was so professional.
I know. I was like, so professional with it. But then she just said it on the phone, and like she was like, I'm going to refer you to a specialist, but you need to avoid wheat and barley. And I was like, right. At this point, I did not know what celiac was. I had no idea. Really? I knew now that it was a gluten-free diet, but I didn't even know that was a thing. So I was like, oh no, I lie. I did know it was a gluten-free diet because my auntie and my cousin are both celiac.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I knew that it was gluten-free, but I had no idea what it actually
Is it a genetic thing, do you know?
It is a genetic thing.
It is.
However, they're by marriage. So it's so bizarre.
That's so weird.
So bizarre. Okay. But it is genetic. It can be genetic. But I mean, no one else in my family is diagnosed.
But do you know what's interesting as well? Because it is classed as an autoimmune, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they can also come from like stemmed of like prolonged periods of trauma. Like if your body's been in like a space of trauma. Do you that this just popped into my head? But do you think because when you had your braces on, and you were eating so much gluten and that was kind of putting your body in a like state of trauma that's what made it more active?
Maybe.
Do you think?
I think
Maybe.
It could be. So after the phone call, she told me she referred me, but it was quite funny because I had a sandwich I'd made for my lunch. I thought, well, I better eat this. I've got nowhere else. So I just ate my sandwich. Like, this is the last time I'm gonna have one of these. And I was just telling my friends like, I can't eat it anymore. As of the phone call, and they were like, "You joking?" I'm like, "Yeah." That's it. It was just quite. It was. I was just sat there laughing, like, "Wow, can't have this anymore." But I'm having it today. So,
like, well.
And then I just rang my mum at work. She was at work, and I rang my dad, and I'm just like, "See that?" They're like, "Oh my god, what?" I'm like, "Yep." That's about it.
Surprise!
So, yeah. And after that, I mean, I started implementing the diet that evening.
Did you do like a late night shop of like going trying to find stuff?
Yeah, I think my mum went on the way home and bought me loads of stuff. Bless her. My family, both of my parents and family, have been really good with it. They were great when I first got diagnosed. They were like, right, let's sort it out. What can you have? What can't you have?
And that really helped.
It did really help.
Yeah.
But there was so much that I had to learn. I mean, all I got told was wheat and barley, but as many celiacs know, there's so much more you can't have. It's wheat, barley, rye, oats, and spelt that you can't have. There's so much.
And it's in everything.
And it's in everything. But yes, they referred me, and I didn't know that the referral was going to be for a biopsy. I had no idea that a biopsy was a part of getting diagnosed. I had no idea. But they didn't get in touch with me after my referral till September this year.
Yeah, and that was 10 months after.
Yeah, so I'm still ongoing with my diagnosis. I've only had a blood test, but I think a lot of celiacs actually have just had a blood test because they've got that many people that they're testing for it that they don't have enough space to get everyone an endoscopy. Yeah. So this is quite recent. So on the 18th September, they let me know that I had an appointment on that day, a phone appointment again. I've not actually seen anyone about having celiac. I've only ever had phone appointments.
But they didn't even tell you it was a phone appointment, did they?
No, they just messaged me saying in the clinic in Pinderfield where I'm from around there, and I thought it was there, so I travelled back, got there with my mum because my mum took me, and then so I wanted someone with me in case it was like I had to go in, but I didn't know, and then it was like, oh no, it's a phone appointment.
And you're like,
oh. And as I was actually talking to the woman on the desk, they rang me and I didn't have a signal, so I didn't know. Looked back when I got outside, I was like, they've rung me and they didn't ring me back. So I went inside, I was like, could you get him to ring me back when he's got a chance? So a couple of hours later, they rang me and he went through like, said all, it went through all this, just like age, whatever. And he was like, so is this about following up on your celiac from being a child? And I went, what? I went, no, I've only found out like last year. And he's like, oh, I thought this was because you just turned 18, like getting a... I was like,
that's mad.
Wow, okay. And then he just went, so I've seen you've had a blood test, but I don't have your records. I'm like, why don't you have my records? Why, you know? And he just said, so as you've been gluten-free for 10 months, I'm going to need you to go back on gluten for 8 weeks. So after 4 weeks, you'll get another blood test to see if you're still positive. And then after another 4 weeks, we'll do an endoscopy to see what's going on.
Bearing in mind, for everyone who doesn't know, this is all happening like 2 weeks into Polly just moving to uni. So I had obviously met Polly. I'd known her for about 2 weeks, and you know, you have all of your kitchen stuff, you've got everything separate. Yeah. And then you were like, how am I going to just explain to my flatmates, by the way, I'm going to be eating gluten for like a couple of weeks?
Yeah. I was like, for 2 months I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to have to hide all my gluten-free stuff under my bed and like get, you know, I can't use my toaster or my air fryer. So I was like, right, I might have to ask if I can borrow my flatmate's stuff. But I was just sat there thinking, you are joking.
Yeah.
Back on gluten again. Oh my God. I thought, oh no. And
because you'd forgotten what it was like when you were eating gluten.
I didn't know how I felt because I thought it was normal. I had no idea actually how unwell I was because I thought that that's just how everyone was. I thought everyone just got this tired or felt bloated and unwell or whatever.
To be fair, so did I.
I just didn't clock that I wasn't well. I mean, I knew I wasn't right, but I didn't clock that that was why. Mm-hmm. So I just was on the phone. I was like, oh my God. I just thought, right, okay. I just went to him, do I start today? He went, yeah, you can if you want. I'm like,
very helpful.
Is that a yes or... So I went, right, I'll start today then, because I didn't want to leave it any later. I just want to get it done within the 8 weeks and be done with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought, oh, I'm just starting uni and I want energy. And I was like, oh. I just told my mum and went, don't do it. My mum literally said that and she went, just don't do it. I went, Mum, I have to, though, to find I want to know what I've got. You know, I'm avoiding everything at the minute, but it might just be a wheat intolerance or it might be something else and I might not. I went back on it for 2 weeks and I just couldn't hack it. I was crying all the time.
You were not well.
I wasn't well. I had no energy. I didn't go out really.
We were staying
I was just feeling so unwell. I mean, you could see in my face. I wasn't well. I had like dark circles around my eyes were just dark and I just looked terrible. I was getting bloated. I realised that. This may be TMI, but it's a podcast about it. Like, I used to be really constipated. I didn't realise it wasn't normal to not go. I went every 3 days. Usually you should go every day.
See, I'm the other way
And
around.
but thing is, when I went gluten-free, I became really healthy, really regular, feeling healthy.
Oh, of course, because your body can't actually process it, can it? So
So I'm not actually it's not digesting right. So I realised that before, that was probably why I wasn't as well. And I just was exhausted. It was not good. And I kept going home and just crying to my mum and dad, being like, and I just didn't know why. And I was arguing with my boyfriend all the time. Sorry about that. If you're listening, shout out. And it was just really not good. And after 2 weeks, I'd still not heard anything. I'd rang 3 times asking for when my appointments were, because I thought, if I know when my appointments are and they're booked, I will hack through this. I'll just get through it, get to the appointment dates, and just do it and just get it done with. I've still not heard from them to this day. I still don't know when my blood test is / endoscopy.
That's insane.
So I'm really glad I went off gluten and went back gluten-free. I went back gluten-free after 2 weeks of being on gluten. But because I'm not throwing up every time I eat it, or, I feel like they've not been as bothered. Like, I'm not hospitalised for it. It's just...
No, but it's enough that you can immediately tell the change.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. Yeah. I just mean from the perspective of the practitioners or the doctors, like, they're not, because I'm not a high priority, because I'm not going into hospital all the time, or, getting to that state. But I've just decided that I know my body. I am celiac because of my reaction to it.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna. I had the blood test then, and it came back positive. Yeah. And it was very positive, because I had so much gluten all the time that,
Yeah.
So it is ongoing, my diagnosis, and I think if in a few years I do decide that I really do want to know what it is I've got, I will try again, or go private, or try to...
Yeah, even next year, once you've, settled.
Yeah,
I feel like
it was the timing.
The timing
It was
is
the timing.
awful.
It was the fact that I'd just started uni, and I really wanted energy, and, I'd be in a lecture, and I'd just, zone out.
We were trying to keep each other awake.
Well, I'd just be in a lecture, and I'd just be like, Dad, I can't be here.
We kept poking each other.
We did. Well, you kept falling asleep.
I did keep falling
asleep. Amy, wake up. This is a lecture. Got to be awake and alive.
And now we both sit there and lean on each other, and we're like, oh no.
I'm back to being fine now, aren't I? But it's taken a good few weeks for me to get back to where I was. Because it sort of sparked. It's going back on gluten has sparked a lot of other issues for me as well. I found just more mental health issues. I really got, it was really not good, and I'm still getting back from that. But
the mental health impact that the diagnosis in general has is huge as well, though. That is something we will get into, but it has such an impact.
It really does. But that is my diagnosis journey up until now.
Yeah. Still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. But I'll see what happens. I'll see if I get a message. I will let the podcast know.
Yeah, we'll
but
keep you updated.
I really doubt I will get one soon. Which is sad.
It's hard as well, because you ringing and everything's so understaffed, and it's hard to
Yeah, and it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault at all. It's just, I think that the diagnosis of a blood test is so much better that more people are getting diagnosed, because it's more accessible. More people are, celiac is being added to the full blood test routine, so them probably catching more people with it.
I was tested when they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I got tested for celiac. And obviously that came back negative. I'm not celiac. Thank goodness. I remember my mum was like, we're going to make you gluten-free for a week. She was well into it. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know how you do it, Polly, because I'm not going to lie. My dad was sneaking me proper cheese sandwiches. I brought him upstairs and I sobbed to him. I was like, Dad, I just want a real cheese sandwich. Just making me eat these gluten-free ones. And he was like, right, I'll go to the shops, don't you worry. And I was like, oh. And then he came upstairs, and I remember just breaking down, because I was feeling so ill anyway, but on top of that, I'm having to eat the tiny little gluten-free bread. I was I couldn't hack it. I don't know how you do it.
I think
couldn't
though,
do it.
I think like when it makes you feel that unwell, I don't care.
I suppose the benefit is better outweighing. Yeah.
But I think actually I've just got used to it. I mean, I have been gluten free other than those 2 weeks for a year now, nearly. 9th of December I started.
Yeah.
So nearly 11 months ish.
Yeah.
Nearly. So I've just get used to it. But now I think let's move over to you, Amy.
Let's move on to me.
How did talk us through all the diagnosis journey? It's I know
how long do we have?
It's such a long story for you, and I know it's traumatic for you.
A little bit. But I feel like it's important to share it for other people who have been through the same thing.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it is definitely something that it is my Roman Empire. It is my Roman Empire and something I think about a lot.
And I think it's something, like you said, like people should know about it, and it's to raise awareness. And I think friends and family should need to know how hard it was for you to go through that. Because you told me before, and it's such a horrible story of the way that you weren't left, but the way it was just your health was sort of not put first for so long while they were trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. And I feel like as well, because part of my diagnosis was having like a surgery as well, so it was like a colonoscopy, and that in itself was very traumatic. But we'll get into that. So, how long do we have, divas? From the start. From the start. So last August, not the one just been, the one before. Is that last August? I don't know. Anyway. My timeline. I've got it in bullet points. So
yeah, because it's a long story.
Last summer, I had gone on holiday with my family, and we were up in Nen in Scotland, having a great time. I was feeling quite ill. I'd been feeling really generally tired all the time, but that was normal for me, and I had just been diagnosed with ADHD, so we all just assumed it was something called ADHD burnout, because I was mentally and emotionally not doing very well. And, we just assumed, okay, struggling with my mental health, it's just taken a toll on my body.
Yeah.
And that is something to look out for, just in case you're like, oh, it's just this. It might not be. And I started to get this weird, rash on my legs that was, it looked like an allergic reaction, but we weren't really sure what it was. And I had started to get ulcers, all throughout my mouth. And they were, when I say everywhere, I mean, they were in my throat, they were down, the sides of my gums, to the point I was really struggling to eat anything. A bit like what you were talking about with your braces. I had a similar experience, but I couldn't eat anything. I was eating pancakes and rice, and that was basically what I was eating. Because, sorry, I keep moving and the chair keeps squeaking. But even things like chocolate, it would, burn my mouth, because it was just full of ulcers. Anything salty, couldn't have anything. It was bad. In September, just before school, we were coming out of summer, September, my face started swelling up, and I've showed you the pictures, and it's something called moon face, where it's just my cheeks and stuff were swelling up, but it started on just half of my face, so my bottom left lip would just swell up massive, and our immediate reaction was oh, I must be allergic to something I'm using. I'd bought a new lip gloss, thought it was just that. Put that aside, wasn't using it, was thinking, oh, okay. And it started to get worse, my whole face was swelling up, I would wake up in the morning, my eyelids would be swollen, and my mouth would be swollen, I was getting my own personal lip filler. It was, I was waking up, and there was just, I was a Kardashian, and it was bad, and so it got to the point where my throat was starting to swell a little bit, and I wasn't struggling to breathe, but we were getting a bit worried that might happen. So we were okay, we're gonna go to the local infirmary. It was nighttime. My mouth was really swollen, and it was getting to the point I was just really struggling to eat or drink or do anything. And they were "Ooh, you might be having an anaphylactic shock." And I was what? And they were yeah, that could be it. So they sent me to A&E, slightly panicked. I was a bit oh, okay, this is not good. Went with my dad, sat there for a while, went in, and he was yeah, it's not an allergy. Has your tummy been hurting? It might be a viral infection, you know. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, it might just be a viral infection. I reckon you just let it play out, yeah? We'll give you some antibiotics. I was like, okay, Diva, what has this got to do with anything?
Antibiotics for a viral infection?
Well, that's what I was thinking. He was like, maybe go and see your dentist. And I was like, okay, yeah, fair. That makes sense, you know, my mouth. He was like, it might be that you've got a viral infection. I think it's because they said, like, oh, maybe you've got a bacterial infection in your mouth. And I was thinking, oh, gross.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's weird. I don't think I ended up on antibiotics at that point anyway. But they were just sort of like, they just didn't know what was wrong, essentially. I think that was the general consensus. They were like, it's not an allergy, so don't worry about that. And I was like, okay. And so we booked the dentist. We went, and she was like, it could be an allergy. And we were like, it's not. And she was like, well, it could be. They might have just, you know, it might just be some, like, a mild one. It doesn't look like, you know, your teeth are really healthy, like, your gums are really, like, inflamed, but they're not, you know, I don't think it's anything too bad to worry about. We're going to refer you to the RVI, which, like, where I'm from, like, up north, Newcastle, like, they referred me to a specialist, and I was like, okay. So all this time I'm kind of thinking, this is something to do with my mouth, like, I'm going to find out this, you know, this is just some, like, I don't know, what's it called, like a I want to say bypass, it's not, but you know when, like, stuff builds up under your gums or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, I'm going to find out I've got one of them or something. And it wasn't, and so this was in October. We'd gone to the dentist. And then they were like, okay, it might take a while though. So my appointment came back, like, the letter, and it was in December, and I was like, ooh. Bearing in mind, like, I'm really struggling to eat at this point. Like, it is getting a bit bad. I'm sitting with ice packs, you know, I'm like, you know, taking a couple of days off school. I'm like, oh, this is hard. They'd given me, I think they'd said, like, oh, maybe get some painkillers from the GP. I was like, oh, okay. Didn't really know what to do, was just sort of like, okay, I'm gonna just sit with it and see what happens. It started to sort of go down a little bit, and I was thinking, oh, this is weird. But bearing in mind, like, every time I brushed my teeth, my mouth would be pouring with blood. Like, I showed you, like, one of them, and that was, like, it would just be normal brushing my teeth, not even with an electric toothbrush, a normal toothbrush. I'd be doing it so gently. My mouth would just be pouring with blood because there's so many ulcers, it's so inflamed, it was so swollen. And I was like, you might be thinking, what's this to do with, like, a bowel disease? But I promise it's relevant. Sorry, I keep kicking the microphone. So we went to the specialist in December. It had sort of gone down, but I was feeling like my stomach was hurting. I was getting constant diarrhea. There was, like, blood in my stools, which is, like, one of the main things to look out for Crohn's. And I'd been back and forth to the GP, and I remember saying to them, like, oh, I think I might have, like, is Crohn's disease something? They're like, yeah, but that would be, like, the extreme case. Like, I really doubt you've got that. And I was like, okay. Because I remember in between they'd done a blood test just to check my vitamin levels, you know, like they'd done for you, and they were like, yeah, you've got low iron. And I was like, girl, I know. I was like, all my family are like, what, it's like pernicious anemia or something, like low B12, blah, blah, blah. But they were like, yeah, no, like, your bloods are, like, relatively fine. There's a little bit of inflammation, but, like, if you've got a viral infection, that would make sense. Because I remember, actually, in between that time, they did put me on a round of antibiotics. And you know when you take antibiotics, but they're not what you need, like, they're not the right thing to be taken, so you become really ill.
Yeah.
I was like that. I was floored for 2 weeks. We went back, they were like, stop taking them. And we were like, okay. But you know how you're meant to finish a round? They were like, nope, don't do it, just stop taking them immediately. I was like, okay. So then it comes around to see the specialist. I'm feeling generally just quite ill, but the swelling's kind of gone down in my mouth a bit. It's not really there, so it's like, you know, it always happens, you end up there and you're like, oh, of course it starts to get better, then one day you're going to, because it would sort of flare up, it would come in and out. I went to see this specialist. He took one look in my mouth and he went, have you been having diarrhea, blood in your stools, and feeling just, like, really tired all the time and, like, a sore stomach? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I think you've got Crohn's disease. I was like, hang on, you're a dentist. I was like, how have you clocked this? He was like, well, it happens quite often. You're of the right age. You're a young girl. It presents between this and this ages. It's like, I think it's like between, what is it? It's like 15 to 25, but some people get it earlier, some people get it later. And he was like, yep, so I'm going to give you like a list of stuff that you should and shouldn't eat that should help with it. But I would go back to your GP and ask for a stool sample. I was like, okay, Diva, how have you just done that? Insane. If I could contact that man and tell him you were right, I actually would, but I cannot remember what the life of me what his name was. And I was flabbergasted, because imagine just going into like a specialist at a dentist's office and they're like, you've got bowel disease. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So he was like, yep. He gave me like, you know, like the like print off like leaflet things, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this. I remember looking through it. There was like little things. It was like, oh, you should eat this, like you shouldn't eat that, and it's like really odd things, like specific vegetables with like skins on, essentially really healthy stuff you're just not supposed to eat because your body can't process it. Yeah. It's like any vegetables. I remember going like, oh, what a shame. No more cucumber, no more kale. I was like, Mum, what am I going to do? No, but I remember being like that and, you know, making lighthearted of it, thinking, nah, I've probably not got it. Like you, I was like, oh, yeah, I really doubt it. But I was feeling really ill, and I was like, a little part of me was like, I might. So we went to the GP. We just went up to the desk. We were like, can we get a stool sample thing? Did it, sent it in, wrote on it what he'd said. 2 weeks later, he rang me back, and I remember because I was at radio. I was like doing like live on air radio, but I had my sister in as a guest, which luckily she's trained to use all the equipment. So I got the phone call and I was like, oh, I'm gonna just pop out. She's like, it's fine, I've got this. I was like, oh, perfect. Went out, was on the phone, and he was like, yeah, so we should have done this sooner. So you've got really high inflammation levels in your stools, so I've referred you to the gastroenterology team. I was like, okay, what does this mean? He was like, well, we suspect you might have Crohn's disease. We're going to put you in for a colonoscopy now. You can either have an appointment where you just meet the person first, and then they'll make one after you've met them, but that could take a while. I was like, no, I don't need to meet them. Let's just do it. I was like, get it done, get it over with. Didn't actually know what a colonoscopy was. I was just like, okay, I'll do that. He was like, and then he was like, so you can choose to either be sedated or have like laughing gas. And I was like, oh. I was like, what is a colonoscopy? He's like, oh, I remember, it makes me giggle when doctors like explain something that's like actually kind of funny but like not. And he was like, so you have a foreign object that enters up your back passage, and it just, and I remember just like absolutely pissed myself. And I was like, right, okay, so they stick up my bum, and he was like, yeah. I was like, sound, okay.
I can just imagine you saying that.
No, because I remember having this conversation. He was so professional. He was so polite. He was like, so there's a long camera, and they stick it up your back passage. It goes through, and they're gonna just they'll have a screen with it on. And I just remember like you explained the whole thing, and I was like, right, so it's going up my bum, and I just need to be sedated. Yeah. And
that's really made me laugh.
Oh my god. And I remember him laughing, and I was like, don't you worry, Queen. I ain't awkward. I am not awkward. I just don't think he expect. And I was like, right, okay. When will this be? He was like, well, it could be whenever. And I was like, okay. So you know, a couple of weeks later, I got that letter, and they were like, you know, it was like blah blah blah. You're going to see this person at this time, in February. And I was like, ooh, bearing in mind, this is year 13, I'm doing my A-levels in a couple months. I was stressed.
Because you'd not been attending, have you? Obviously, you can't attend when you're like that.
No, and it had been sort of, at this point, it was like in and out of like, I was going like maybe 2 times a week. I was like, you know, I'd go in, and I'd be like, Mum, can you pick me up? And she'd be like, no, but your grandma can. I'd be like, right, okay. And I'd be going home.
Wow. Or
I'd like, because you know, there was like specific days, so it was like a Friday I'd have one lesson, I'd go in for that, I'd come straight home.
Yeah.
And I remember not feeling well. Like, I'd just go in the morning, I'd meet my friend, and I'd just be like crying, and then I would like be like, no, I need to lock in. And I'd power through it because I was like, we don't know what this is yet. Like, I could be just making this up. Like, because it is such an imposter syndrome thing as well. Like, you just think you're making it up because no one has any answers. But then I was like, right, no, like, I'm getting tested for this thing. Like, I remember saying, like, to my friends, like, oh, I'm getting a colonoscopy. I remember saying to my driving instructor, because at this point I had had a couple driving lessons, which later I had to stop for because I was no longer able to do that. But I remember her saying, like, oh, I've had one. It's not very good. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, February comes around. It's like the start of February. I did the colonoscopy prep, which, if any of you've done that, oh. So it's essentially, you have to have, it's like 3 packets of laxatives. And when I say packets, I mean packets. They were not little. I'm just going to show Polly a picture because although you guys can't see it, like, that was it compared to it was bigger than the size of my hand and it was thick.
Oh my God.
I think I'd had 3 jugs of this laxative, which, by the way, was thick stuff. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I remember I was hyping myself up. They were like, so you can't drink anything that's like red, no juice. You just might have to chase it with water, or you could have Coke actually. And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I remember it was
having loads of Coke.
I remember sobbing. It was disgusting. I'm one of those people that if I'm like really grossed out and really ill, I cannot eat or drink. And I remember that if there's something I really don't want to put in my mouth or drink, I'm just like, it makes me feel nauseous and sick. And it was like, I remember it's like that one scene in Harry Potter, it's like, keep drinking, Sam. I remember...
Just keep drinking.
Just keep drinking, and it's he just makes that noise, it's like, yeah, I felt like that. I remember horrible. I locked in, sat down, I put Aladdin on, I had my comfort film, Aladdin on, I had Coke, I was drinking it, and it was awful. I was having to proper, like, sit and hype myself up. And it got to the point where, you know, you have to keep taking it, and it's essentially to the point where you're just pooing out clear water. Oh. And it is I'm not TMI, but this is what this is for. But it gets to the point where, like, your bum becomes really dehydrated, and you get blisters and stuff because it is just shooting out water. It's like if you have diarrhea for like weeks on end, like, everything's inflamed anyway. I mean, everything was internally, but we were yet to discover this. And I was like, you know what, that's good enough. And I remember I still had like half a jug left. And my mum was like, you have to drink all of it. And I was like, okay, I will. And I remember just sneakily going in the bathroom and like pouring it out. And my dad went, you didn't drink that, did you? And I went, yeah, I did. And he went, I won't tell her. And I was like, okay, thank you. Sorry for dobbing you in it, Dad. But do you know what? Went in for the colonoscopy, and they were like, I remember getting the report back afterwards a couple of months later, and it was like exceptional bowel prep, and I was like, yeah, that was me, I did that. I was like, so I didn't even need all of it, but anyway, so went in for this colonoscopy the day after, was assuming I was going to get sedated. That's what I had decided I was going to do. I remember I had sat there I wasn't allowed to eat anything. So for 24 hours, I think it was, 24 hours? Yeah, I had to stop eating the day before, and I couldn't eat until after. Because obviously you can't have anything internally because they're shoving stuff up your bum. And I'd gone in, and it was, I think the appointment was supposed to be at 11 o'clock. And I don't think I went in until 1. Because, as well, I have really small veins and stuff, so they had to do like a cannula thing. Oh, wait, no, they had to do a cannula thing because they were going to sedate me. But for some reason, the sedation just didn't work. And I think it's because of the amount of pain I was in. So anyway, this is, like, my most traumatic memory of, like, the past year. So, they had to wait for, like, the actual, like, lady who was doing it to come in, do that. Went in. They were like, do you want your mum there? I was like, no, I don't need her. I was like, I'm a strong, independent woman. Boy, was I wrong. I went in, and so I obviously had this, like, the cannula thing in my arm. They must have like sedated me or something. And I just remember it, like, starting, and I was screaming. I was sobbing. My face was drenched in my own tears. I was like screaming. And I remember because I did not know my mum's phone number, but in that moment, it sprung from the depths of wherever it was hiding, because I was in so much pain. Like, they were having I can laugh about it now, but in the moment it was really, really traumatic. They were like having to hold me down, and they were like giving me this like an Entonox gas. So it was like I had been sedated, but it wasn't working. So they'd give me the Entonox gas, but obviously, you know, you have to keep breathing it in or it like stops really quickly. And so they'd you know, my mum was just sat in the car. She was just like waiting, and then had to get her in, and she was like, "It's okay, it's okay." And I was like, I remember just screaming and being like, "It's not okay." And it was a horrendous experience. I do not wish it on my worst enemy. It was very traumatic.
I think it must have been so bad for you because you were literally inflamed. You had ulcers.
I had ulcers
everywhere. That's why it was that painful.
Yeah.
Because I mean, normal people who go get a colonoscopy don't have that. So and they'll have had laughing at it, like, because I know my dad and my sister have had one, and they did not have this traumatic experience because they don't have they don't have Crohn's. They're fine. I mean, obviously it was horrible. They both said that, oh, it's not the best, but you know, did it. But you were completely inflamed. Add that pain on top of the stress of doing it and all the pain you've had for the last like half a year at this point. Yeah. From August. And then that's horrible. And then the sedation not working, you having to have gas but it not working because you're not breathing because you're in so much pain.
Because I'm screaming.
Because you're screaming. So then it's like,
I know it sounds like I was being really dramatic, but I've never felt pain like that in my life.
It does not. No one thinks you're dramatic.
I came out of it and I barely looked alive because I was so drained. I was like, I wasn't there. I just was not there. But obviously I'd had so much of that gas, I was quite loopy at the end. And bearing in mind this is all happening and they're just doing this to just view like inside. They hadn't taken the biopsy yet, which is obviously where they're like, you know, they take a sample and they put the clips in. And for whatever reason, that bit didn't hurt. And it was genuinely as the thing was moving further up, because it's, you know, like it goes through. I remember I've literally got the report, and they were saying it was through like the large bowel into the small bowel, and it was like, it was. Oh, let me find it, because these are the pictures as well. This is the report I got straight after.
Oh my God, I'm just looking at a lot of ulcers here.
Yeah, this is because they take pictures of like the internal.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. So I was in quite a traumatic state. And it says, findings. Very difficult procedure due to heightened patient anxiety from the start of the procedure, mum in attendance. Let me tell you, I was chilling before I went in there. I was very unbothered. Did not think it was going to hurt. So I was not anxious. The only thing that made me anxious was they were like, so there's a very small chance that there could be a bowel perforation and we might have to send you to Wandsbeck Hospital. And you could end up with a stoma. And I was like, what? This was never explained to me. Because obviously, you know, they are shoving it up somewhere that's, you know, delicate. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, so we just need you to sign a waiver. Right now, my mum's not with me. I'm just sat here on my own. And I'm like, this is before my birthday. Like, I'm 17. I'm a 17-year-old person that's just sat there. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I sign it. I'm like, either way, I have to do this because we're not gonna find out.
So did they take the biopsy on the same?
Yeah,
day?
they took it like in the whole process.
In the process. So you got your diagnosis from the biopsy. How long did that take to get the results back?
I didn't actually see anyone about it after that until April. I didn't get the letter until April.
So wow.
So and I have to admit that so the months February, because I had this colonoscopy, it was like the start of February. So February, March, April, completely not in school. After that colonoscopy, because obviously it had disrupted things, I was in pain, like to the point where I couldn't walk. I was like lying in bed all day, and you know when you're in prolonged amount of pain, so you're tired all the time. I was in bed. I was not moving. I was being woken up maybe like once or twice a day by my mum just to make sure I'd eaten something. I would sleep from like 6 o'clock. I'd wake up at like 6 o'clock in the evening, and I'd be asleep until 6 o'clock the next day. Apart from maybe like at 12, my mum would make me eat some soup, and I was losing a lot of weight as well, because in this whole process, obviously, aside from like the ulcers and not being able to eat stuff, like my intestines are covered in ulcers, like I cannot absorb any nutrients. So I had lost a scary amount of weight, and they were like, we're gonna get you in touch with like a nutritionist, and I was like, okay. So in March, they'd referred me to the North Tyneside gastroenterology team. So this was like a month after the colonoscopy, and I hadn't really heard anything back. On the thing they printed out on the day, the statement did say suspected Crohn's disease and suspected ulcerative colitis, because I think that's ulcerative colitis is like one, there's two types, I think. The one that you can get that will go away, and one that you kind of just have. And I think I had the one that would like just cause because of all the inflammation and everything else. And like, so it's like my colon and everything was inflamed, as well as like my bowels, and like it was everywhere. And they were like, we're going to put you on some steroids. This was like 2 or 3 a day. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't doing anything. So like February to March, I was in a lot of pain. I was, the type of pain where you just like, at the point where you're like throwing up. I was so nauseous all the time, and I was like I never did. I think I did once or twice actually. But it was at the point where you just was like, I don't even remember it. Like, I remember the pain, but I don't remember like living through February and March. Like, it's like trauma in like my head. I'm just like, I don't remember it. And then so March, the end of March, so it was like end of March, start of April, I'd gone to see the gastrologist or the nurse, and he was like, yeah, so you've got Crohn's disease. There's specific medication for it, but we can't put you on it because you're not well enough. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, so you're on steroids, how does that feel? I was like, not great. So I ended up being put on 8 steroids a day. It was, I remember, I've got the letter that says everything I was on, and he looked through it, and then he was like, so we're going to put you on I think it's like an intensive treatment. I'll find it later, but it was like an intensive treatment of steroids, like a rushed one. So I was on 8 a day, and then I had to go down 1 a week for like 8 weeks. And we're in March/April time. My exams are in May. I was like, how am I even going to sit them? Like, I haven't been in school so much this year. And it was mad. So we'd gone in, and then so kind of like yours, where he just was like, so there's a website that you can look at, and it was Crohn's and Colitis UK. Really recommend signing up to that if you have Crohn's, you're newly diagnosed or like coming into it, because that was the most helpful thing, I think, that got me through like understanding. But he was just like, yeah, so we'll do that. We'll put you on these steroids, and then we'll look at putting you on like a long-term treatment plan. And I was like, okay. So I'm on all these steroids. I've got other medication for like just to general like gastro pain, like in my stomach. And I remember just like, being on them. But the thing about prednisolone is everyone has like different reactions to it. It makes you eat a lot more. It made me really, really angry. And one of the side effects, is like, may experience symptoms of like psychosis. And like, I was so angry all the time, and I hated it. I was like, this is not me. Like, I would say like, I'm a loud person, but I'm quite a chill person.
Yeah, you're not aggressive.
I'm not aggressive, and I don't really ever get that
No.
angry at people. Like, I don't really see point in holding grudges and things. I was getting angry at everyone. I was raging all the time. I was so angry. I was so annoyed. Everything. It would even just like my mum being like, "Oh, how are you feeling this morning?" I'd be like, "Leave me alone!" Like, And I just didn't understand what was happening, because it does like medically change like your hormones. So it makes you eat more, it makes you angry. It was awful. 8 weeks of this, by the way. And then so it was like, yeah, I feel like that. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Like the pain is still there. You know, I'm having bowel incontinence. I'm going to the toilet like 8 times a day. There's like diarrhea. It's not great. There's always a lot of blood. There's always a lot of pain. But my mouth also started to go away. So I was like, this is great. Aside from everything else, I was like, I can eat real food. This is awesome. So we got referred to like another team, and they were like, so we are thinking that we might put you on infliximab and azathioprine, but we need you to read this leaflet about this medication, because we can advise you to take it, but there's a lot of side effects. And I remember I had looked at it, because the other guy had given me like a leaflet of like, this might be what they might put you on. And for anyone who's on azathioprine, so azathioprine is the type of drug that's used as an alternative to chemotherapy. It's for like autoimmune things. So the side effects, I've got them up on the website. So there's like serious side effects and there's common side effects. So it's like feeling nauseous, feeling tired, and back pain. And I was like, oh yeah. And then it's like, like heightened risk of like getting skin cancer, all of these things. And it's like serious side effects. Stop taking the medicine and speak to a doctor if you feel. And it's like high temperature, sore throat, joint muscles, all of this. And I have all of these. I'm just going to say this. You're bleeding or bruising more easily than usual. This also happens. So I'm on that medication at the minute, but I had read through this and I just thought, well, it's either that or be in the pain that I'm in. So, weighing it up.
Yeah.
It's either stay in bed for the next 3 months, not take my A-levels, not be able to get out of bed, barely be able to walk anywhere. Like, I was a shell of a human being. I was skinny. I had no strength in me at all. I could not close the car boot. So they were like, yeah, so we're going to put you on this in like 2 weeks. And I didn't get this appointment until 2 weeks before my first exam. So this is in May. So I've been on these steroids throughout March and April. And the long-term treatment plan wasn't even like, we'd spoken to them. I remember going in and like just sobbing and being like, I have my first exam in 2 weeks. Like, I need something. So I didn't get the first transfusion, which was, so it's like infliximab was like, you sit down in a room, they put a cannula in, it's transfused, it takes 3 hours. So you're sat there, you can't really do anything because you're just like hooked up to a machine. The actual thing took like 2 hours, but you have to sit there for an hour, make sure you're not having a load reaction, anything like that. And I remember I got that on the Friday, and my exam was on the Monday. So my first proper treatment for this thing, and I was like, oh, okay then. And I remember feeling really ill. I hadn't revised for it. Can I just say, though, I got a B in that subject, and I'm very proud of myself. I did not do well in the rest of them. but that one...
That's great, though.
Classical civilizations. So you have to get it, like, 3 or 4 times in, like, the clinic before you can start taking it yourself. So my treatment plan at the moment is I'm on azathioprine, which is like a medication, and I've got these like self-injection pens that I keep in like a little mini fridge in my room, and I take them every 2 weeks. So I've actually got to take one on Sunday, and they do hurt, and it is a bit, it's not like just, I would rather go in and get the transfusion and it take 3 hours, but it is like a mentally messes with your head a bit. And it was like, I remember they were like doing it the first time. She was like, it doesn't normally hurt that much. Are you sure it wasn't just because you were anxious? And I was like, no, hun, it's because you told me to do it like a dart. As in, she was like, just stab it in you, just get it done. I have since learned, if you just gently, slowly do it, it hurts much less.
Oh my god. Just stab it like a dart.
Stab it like a dart. Don't do that. If you have infliximab injections, it's an infliximab injection. It kind of looks like an EpiPen. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my advice is if you're starting those, don't let them convince you to just, like, do it quickly and get it over with. It's much nicer and less painful if you do it very slowly at your own pace. Because I was taking azathioprine, I was getting a lot of back pain, and I was thinking, is this something different? Is this Crohn's related? I'm starting to feel a bit better, like my stomach's not in pain as much. I'm still getting diarrhea, but it's a lot less, and, I can eat a bit better, and I'm feeling a bit better, like, not 100%, but, like, compared to what I was, anything felt better.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I'm in so much pain all the time. Like, it was like my lower back. And I was looking on the Crohn's and Colitis website, and it was like, oh, there's all these things. Like, it could be happening because of this. And I remember, like, this is an ongoing thing at the minute. Like, literally last week, I had an MRI of, like, my spine and, like, my hips and stuff. And I was tested for, like, rheumatoid arthritis. I've had, like, ultrasounds and things. And this is just in, like, the past couple of months.
And that's the thing with, like, diagnosis. It is still ongoing, especially for you trying to figure out what medication works and, how you're feeling. And
yeah, but it is ongoing, my treatment and figuring it out. And
I think that's the same for a lot of other people as well. It's never done. I mean, I saw a video where this woman who's got celiac said it took her 10 years to get diagnosed.
That's insane.
And, like, you've had such a traumatic process, and I'm really glad that we've been able to bring awareness to that and tell the full story, because that's the thing. Like, it is such a long story to tell, and but it's an important one.
It's important
that everyone understands what you've gone through and sort of what you're going through at the minute. Like, because I know some people might think, oh, she's just not coming in because she just don't want to or whatever.
And I think
it's like, no, there's a serious reason why you're not. If it happens.
It's like if I don't show up, and I think as well it's confusing for people because me and Polly have quite bubbly, loud personalities, so most of the time I do seem like I'm energetic.
Yeah.
But I have ADHD and I'm hyperactive in the sense I talk a lot. We all know I talk a lot. That is what I'm known for. I'm a bit of a yapatron. And, I mean, we both are. And I think it can, because it's an invisible illness, it can come across like there's nothing wrong with me, but I'm very good at sort of just masking it and powering through, and then I get home and I crash completely.
Yeah.
Like, I will sit down and I won't move. Like, I struggle to make food. I struggle to do showers, anything.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, well, if you've got the energy to, like, do that, then you're fine. It's like, no, I am delegating my energy for this specifically.
Yeah.
And
I think that's something that we need to discuss about how and learn ourselves how to get that balance of, like, being able to do all the things in the day and then not crash so far.
Yeah.
But I know that obviously
it's
is
hard.
so hard for you.
For me, yeah.
And it's something that you probably won't get the balance of for a good few years until you've got your medication right.
Well, yeah.
And until it's working properly. Because, I mean, I know a few people who also have, like, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, and they are now, after being on the right medication for at least, like, 10 years, they are fine, functioning normally.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I mean, they still get exhausted, but they're fine. And it's like, you've got to remember that you are at the very start of this very long journey. Unfortunately, yeah. But it's that thing of not beating yourself up that you're not fine straight away. Well, you don't feel fine straight away.
I think as well it's also accepting that the version of myself that I used to be is not who I'm going to be ever again. Like, that sounds harsh, but it's like I saw something the other day, and it was like accepting that you are probably going to be ill on your wedding day, and you're probably going to be ill when you, like, graduate or, like, do all these, like, milestones, and it's like realizing that, but also accepting, like, that is just who you are, and, like, it makes you stronger for, like, being able to put up with it. And I think because it's something that people don't see once they learn and, like, understand you a bit more, like, it's important to remember that things that you used to be able to do, like, I was never that sporty, but I did love doing, like, like, I used to play cricket and things, and I used to be able to just, like, go out for, like, a full day, but I have to really think about what I'm doing. Like, I just coming to uni for the day exhausts me. Like, this week I've been really exhausted, and I keep ringing my mum and just crying because I don't really know what to do with myself. And that's, like, something that I think people think as well, because Crohn's is, like, you're in flare-ups, so it's like you are in periods of remission, but those periods of remission, which I'm technically in right now, I'm still experiencing a lot of the symptoms. It's just less active.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, you're in remission, like you're fine now. It's like, no, I'm not actively like crippled in pain and not being able to move, but like I am in pain and having to take like full codeine to get out of bed, and like I'm having to like really plan like where I'm going and how long I'm going, and just say to people like, look, I'm might not end up there, like I'm in pain and I'm tired, and like, I mean, you saw me yesterday, I was exhausted.
You were.
It is important to like look after yourself when you get to uni.
Yeah, and I think through the diagnosis process, looking after yourself is definitely up there, you know. But I think that's everything for this episode.
Yeah.
And we will link how to get diagnosed. We'll link the NHS website about how to get diagnosed for both, and make information sheets on, you know, tips for getting diagnosed and sort of how to navigate it if you're not sure. But I really hope that this raised awareness for everyone about what's going on and about how we've been doing, and sort of the trauma behind diagnosis. So thank you so much for listening. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode
thank you so much.
of Managing the Mayhem, the podcast. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.